that would prohibit smoking of marijuana or hashish in public spaces in Cambridge. And it's page 3 of this report. He also recommended that the city enact an ordinance that would make it an independent offense to refuse, upon a police officer's request, to give his or her true name when notified that a citation for the violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 94C, subsection 30, and then report back to the City Council its recommendation as to 1, to adopt the ordinance, 2, to modify the ordinance, or to vote the ordinance down. So this first reading is just one step that's having a public conversation about this. And so some of the proposed questions are before you, before I have everyone that's at the table to testify and introduce themselves. Some of the questions that we might want to consider is, what does the council need to know in order to make an informed decision? Does the proposed ordinance need to be amended? And so how to do this, I would like to allow those people that have been invited to talk to the ordinance, pro or con, to introduce themselves. First, just go around them and introduce themselves.
I'm Lieutenant Leonard Petro, Cambridge Police Department Family Services Unit.
I'm Paul Ames, I'm the Deputy Superintendent of the Police Department.
My name is Michael Crawford. I'm the president of MassCann, NORML, Massachusetts Cannabis Reform Coalition. I'm also a Cambridge resident.
Attorney Stephen Epstein, I'm a founder of the Massachusetts Cannabis Reform Coalition and an officer and a practicing attorney in criminal defense.
A question had been posed to me at one previous meeting where they were asking about, quote, gangs. While we feel that in Cambridge we don't have gangs that are typical of nationally recognized types groups or even those from Boston, the one thing that we do see in our youth groups here is a entrepreneurial association in the sale of marijuana. And what we're seeing there is these groups of youth that are associated by geographic location, by race, or whatever brings them together. They are selling marijuana. This is something that we know. This is something that's been proven through our investigations. In fact, in the 2 years, again, since the implementation of the law, in 2009, there were 24 possession with intent to distribute cases brought forward, and in 2010, currently, also 24, that we're seeing violence. You know, the reports in the news about the incidents in Boston, that was a marijuana sale that went bad, where 4 people were murdered. The incident at Harvard involving the Harvard students and our own Cambridge resident, marijuana. It's just a nature of the drug trade, whether it's marijuana, cocaine, heroin, or any substance.
Now, the failure to identify problem. I know from what my own anecdotal experience as a practicing criminal defense attorney, as well as data we collected prior to the passage of question 2, and from statements made by the opponents of question 2, and this goes to the identity problem, that roughly 2/3 of all marijuana possession charges prior to January 3, 2009 were the result of a search incident to arrest, or was the reason for the arrest following a traffic stop?
Obviously, the Teen Hall survey said one thing, but how do we, I guess when I think about, how do I peg that to what's going on in the community, how much violence there is, and what do I guess are there like hard numbers I can tie that to? I can compare that to?
Are you talking about only in Cambridge, or are you talking about statewide?
I'm talking about Cambridge.
The associated violent acts with the use or sale of marijuana, I mean, where are you going? Because we can go in a number of different directions. I did mention the 2 recent, high-profile type cases involving marijuana sales. You know, we're talking drug sales, violence attached to drug sales. I mean, I don't really want to go back to Al Pacino and Scarface, but you know, it's a, this is something that we've seen recently that I just brought to the attention, that marijuana is not just a gateway drug necessarily. It's still a controlled substance. It's still it's not legal. And when we do see serious crimes being committed just because of the nature of the product, it still has to be considered that it's not as harmless as people will tend to make it out to be. At least the sales of it. I mean, it's not readily available in pharmacies yet in Massachusetts.
I guess,
Well, let me say that I think it also, we could easily look at that as far as, marijuana arrests, investigations, things like that, where perhaps even if there's an arrest for violence and there's marijuana also charged, or there's a distribution case that perhaps is cocaine that also, is that what you're talking about, where you want to see more of a statistical analysis of violence related to the marijuana possession and sale, etc.?
I guess when you say that there's an increase, kids are concerned about violence, but what one person thinks is violence is like how much it's an undefined term, right? What I think of as violence may be different from what the kids think of as violence, or I'm trying to get at what are they thinking, what are they actually feeling, like how does that, I'm trying to, how much to think about what they're saying, because it's, they're not, are they scared of people, are there people carrying guns, are they?
The fine's not going to make a difference. Prohibition didn't make a difference. Use went up. And now if you look at tobacco use in Massachusetts, tobacco use among children and adults is down. No one was arrested. I don't see anyone being fined for tobacco use in the streets. But use is down. Use is down among children. Education, I think that works. The officer talked about the MIA. That's what kept me away from drugs and alcohol in high school. It wasn't, arrest. Maybe my parents a little bit, but it was really the MIA. I think that if we want to reduce teen drug use, there are other ways to do it. My concern is a $400 fine for maybe a 17-year-old who's now 18, and he doesn't pay the fine. Does he have a criminal record now? Does it show up as marijuana prohibition? I don't think anyone can really answer. The problem with the profitability in sales is that marijuana is illegal. They talk about violence with drugs. Well, there is no one getting shot over selling alcohol. There's no one getting shot over selling tobacco. I mean, that's the problem. Having a civil offense, increasing a fine, I don't see that it's going to make a difference.